Hey guys, I wanted to welcome you guys to our very first Mythic War Table podcast, where we talk about Warhammer 40k. My name is Kenny, and I'm the director of sales and community at Mythico Studios, and I'll be your host for these lovely podcasts. Joining us today for these weekly podcasts are the gentlemen from the Warhammer 40k national team. We have Sean Naden, Captain America; Kurt Klaus, Eldar Extraordinaire; T.J. Lanigan, the Lord of Chaos. And I also wanted to give a big shout out to the Sandman working in the shadows, Mr. Andrew Braverman, the bravest man. And for our first podcast, I wanted to introduce ourselves so you guys know who we are before we get into some juicy topics. As I said before, I'm Kenny. I am Director of Sales and Community Development over at Mythico Studios. And I take care of pretty much everything on daily basis for the store. And I also TO for the Warhammer 40k tournaments we have.
I'm Sean Naden. I am Captain America for Warhammer 40k at least. I've been playing 40k for a long time. I really enjoy it. It's one of those hobbies that fulfills a lot of boxes for me, from painting to competitive play. I never really could get into competitive video gaming because I'm too old. I fall into that category of too old or too young, who knows. But I like how 40k isn't, and tabletop gaming in general isn't like the rapid pace of like having to keep your skills up. So it's something I can do and still lead a normal life, because until there's a way to make 40k a professional sport, I have to keep my day job. So, how about you, Kurt? Who are you?
Hey guys, it's Kurt Klaus. I'm also a veteran of the 40k days. I've played for about, let's say, 20 years. Not 20, 20 years on and off. I've played competitively for about 10 years. I'm also on Team America with Sean. We both joined the team together, I think, in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. I've played Eldar for a while. I'm a little bit younger than Sean, so I tried to go professional in gaming in that I got addicted to a bunch of video games like the vast majority of kids my age, and never got good enough to make money at it. Just wasted a lot of time and a lot of screen hours. So instead now I play a lot of 40K with these guys, travel a lot of tournaments, and I really enjoy the team events. That's honestly where I have the most fun, with a squad of guys going out there drinking, playing 40K.
Mr. TJ?
Hey guys, TJ here. I play Chaos. This is my first year on the United States team. Not my first trip for the World Championship, but I played 40K competitively for about 3 years now. Switched over to Chaos to start my competitive career, but I played NIDS for about 11 years prior to that. So it's been a long time. Really big into the hobby aspect, really like the lore. I've read all the books. I like to get the codexes, read all the stories in them. I read them on my lunch break. I do books on tape. So that's what drew me into the game originally. So I like to keep in touch with that part. So.
Cool. So you heard from us. These are all of some of the best players that you can find around, and they come to Mythico Studios for tournaments as much as they can. And we'll get into some juicy topics here. First, with the whole virus outbreak and the pandemic, I wanted to ask these guys, since they are, veterans of the game, and also, they travel a lot to play. What do you guys think the state of the game will be like when the pandemic is over? Like, do you guys feel like, you'll see more people at these tournaments, or do you think you'll see less attendance? Do you think like the hobby will suffer at all, like from the pandemic?
Yeah, it's a weird place for the hobby right now, right? Because one of the things that really attracts me about playing 40k is the people you meet, and that's what I really love about traveling to tournaments: the competitiveness, and then who you meet and interacting with people. And the game itself is so social, and it develops so many different friendships. Like Kurt said before, we've known each other a long time based on this hobby. Like, that's the only reason we would have ever interacted with each other. We don't run in circles. We live semi close to each other, but like there's nothing that we would have crossed lives with, but we have, and so we've had this deep, fun, amazing friendship for a long time because of that. And right now, none of us can go out and play this game that we like, and so it's really, really interesting from that perspective of the game, is like what the next couple months and how long social distancing and all this quarantine type stuff will keep people away from each other and playing the hobby.
Kurt, what are your thoughts?
Oh, sorry. So I honestly agree with him there that the social aspect is absolutely massive, because some of my best friends I have in life are honestly 40K friends. on the weekends is where I choose to spend, say, 2 days at a GT. I decide instead of I'm going to go home see family or I'm going to go see local friends or coworkers, I instead go play 40K for 2 days in a different city and spend all day, every day playing this game with people I only see every, month, 2 months, 3 months, depending on what type of tournament it is or where it is. But I think there will be a lot of pent-up demand, not demand, but a lot of players looking to get out there and play their armies once this thing's over and once it's clear, because you're not going to get to play, let's say, in big groups for a while. So you can't get together with 10 or 15 people, depending where you are, of course. If you're in a place that's not affected by it, you should be fine. It's hitting us a little harder over here. I think there'll be a lot of demand once it's over, depending on, I guess, when it's over in reality.
Mr. TJ, what do you think?
So yeah, I mean, you also got to take it from the competitive side, as well. I mean, people who they do this, pretty much, I would say, as close as professional as you can get. They get these scores, they get these ranks for going to these events that now most of these are canceled. So I mean, you got to imagine that the competitive scene, as well as the casual scene, people have been locked in their houses for a long time, are going to be out. So, I mean, plan on whatever event that you're trying to go to in the tail end of this year to be super packed and more packed than ever. We're talking like Vegas levels this year packed. Everybody's going to want to go. Everybody's going to want to be there. If Games Workshop plays their cards right, they could really have a super successful year with making money after everybody comes back. Really hone in on the addition, draw everybody into a nice roundabout new method of playing. So I'm excited for that.
So you guys all
Yeah.
think that the tournaments will be like pretty much all generally sold out from pretty much across the board across the United States, as long as it's not quarantined, right?
Yeah, once I think, everything is clear and people get the go ahead, I think we'll get some rise back to 8th has seen some of the highest attendance of tournaments from the local level to the super major level across any edition that we've seen so far. It's just been huge numbers, huge amount of positivity. And interestingly enough, I think that positivity had been dipping lately because there was a little bit of Space Marine fatigue the last couple months since
Iron Hands.
Exactly. So I think there has been a little bit of fatigue in the community over that, and this break almost comes at a semi decent time for that, to break up some of that fatigue, to give people just, they just want to go out, so they're going to play even if it was a Space Marine meta. But by the time we get to events, who knows what it could be, because we could be looking at, if rumors swirling from this weekend or this past weekend, depending on when this podcast drops, we'll see that if the new edition gets announced, which was everything signs were pointing to it at the Adepticon, which was supposed to happen this week, we were going to get the GW reveal of maybe a new edition, and we might see that, and we don't know. They're going to reveal that this weekend to us on their platforms, and we're really excited about that idea that there may be a new edition. So this could be like a huge storm, like TJ was saying, where a new edition comes out, people are pent up, want to get out, want to see their friends that they haven't seen in months, want to get and play in events. So we could see towards the tail end of the year, as things clear up, that just a huge amount of attendance and huge amounts of rush to go out there and play the new edition and the new toys, or just the toys you've been spending this whole quarantine painting in your basement.
Yeah. Do you think like the hobby will suffer at all, guys? Like, I know you guys said you don't think it will, but so with GW like closing down their website for a little bit for the virus outbreak and stuff, you don't think that like the hobby will suffer? I know all of us have models that are just probably sitting sealed, collecting dust, waiting for us to break out. But do you find that newer players will struggle to get some like hobby materials at all?
I think it will be hard in the short term, just because people are used to grabbing quickly paint from somewhere at the local store if you're located close to one. In that regard, I think it might not be the players that suffer more so, but possibly the stores themselves, simply because they can't sell product this time on a face-to-face basis. You don't have the Magic tournaments, you don't have the 40K tournaments, you don't have the other tournaments to generate revenue. So I think the local stores might suffer more than the actual players, in all honesty. So I don't know if the hobby specifically for 40K will suffer, but I'm hopeful that the existing stores in the area and all the ones nationwide will make it through the pandemic, but we don't know how many months this will be closed. This could be a 1 month thing. This could be a 3 month thing. New York's looking like 2-3 months in reality
Yeah.
of full on quarantine. So it's possible that certain stores will have trouble paying bills, obviously, paying payroll, obviously. So I think the hobby will be players, but places to play could struggle, we'll say.
Yeah. You bring up a really good point with that, because I was thinking about it not just from like ourselves at Mythico Studios, but like at other stores. Some places that rely solely on like people coming in or tournaments on the weekends and stuff. I really hope that all these places can still stick around, because that's my biggest fear, is that as a community leader, I would suck for people that have like a local game store and they just don't have that local game store anymore, or something happens because of the virus or something. That would kill. I think that would really destroy part of the community, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, I think GW themselves is lucky that they've had a really good 2-3 years with 8th edition, because their financials 3-4 years ago, towards the end of 7th, were not looking good. Stock was falling, confidence in the company was falling. So the fact that they've had 3 good years to like build that credit with the community, build that just like a reserve of cash or whatever, how their just company was doing good, so their stockholders are happy. That will allow them to like weather this downturn for a little bit, because I really feel if this had hit at the end of 7th, maybe the company would have just folded.
Oh yeah, I could feel that.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a thing. I mean, people didn't really like 7th edition, especially the tail end of 7th edition. People were just done with it. I know a lot of my friends stopped playing. Even the competitive friends that I have, some of them just didn't come back to 8th edition, even though you would tell people like in the beginning, like how good of an edition it was. Like, oh man, I'm telling you, this is different than 7th. Like, this is much better. Like, no, I'm good, man. So I'm glad they have a good, they have a good presence right now. I just think they have an opportunity to capitalize on where the game is at now. And like you said, Space Marines, I think, was a little too heavy-handed. I think hopefully they understand that now. So, yeah, I'm excited for what's coming next, and there is a lot of stuff coming. We've got still new books coming out. We've got hopefully a new edition announced. So maybe a Primarch, that would be cool. Let's not,
It'll probably be chaos, because
let's do that. Let's do Fulgrim.
Yeah, and that's the interesting part, right? Is that I know myself. It's like I can't get out and play with anyone. I have a young kid at home, so I got to definitely watch who I interact with right now and doing that kind of thing just to keep my own family safe. But I've started painting even more than ever, and just trying to self-motivate, because usually I paint for events. I'm like, all right, what am I changing slightly up in my list for this next event? That's what I'm going to paint. So instead of that, I'm just like trying to self-motivate and be like, no, paint because you like it and you enjoy it, which I do. I really do enjoy it. It's just, always in a busy life with the job and with, kids, friends, all these things. It's really hard to always find time for all these things. So right now, and I encourage everybody out there to do, is, just set a couple hours apart every week to paint, and really enjoy that, because it's a solitary thing a lot of times. I mean, I try to do it sometimes with either watching a friend's YouTube channel or hanging out or on a G chat with somebody, and we're chatting. Use that time to interact with some of the people from this hobby. Set a time aside with a friend and be like, hey, let's just video chat and paint, and we'll just be hanging out. And you can build these kind of rituals even in the social distancing world that we're in right now, to still enjoy this hobby and still enjoy the friends you've made in this hobby.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, because like now that I think about it, you brought it up. I wonder how many people are actually trying to do that. I know I see a lot of like people on my Facebook feed, like Zoom, like using Zoom to like kind of video chat with people. I wonder how many people actually do that right now. I would say probably I would say a good quarter of the community is probably doing that to some extent, right?
Yeah, and I'm doing it also weekly on my Twitch channel at Team Battle Brothers on Twitch, and so I hang out, and that's something I've done in the past. I've watched other painters do live, like Kenny Boucher at Next Level Painting on his Twitch channels, and it's an interesting thing, because if you know the person that's painting as well, or you watch them enough which is great for Twitch, because you start to feel like you know them, and you can interact with them live and text something, and they interact back. It's almost, because this hobby, and we talk about it all the time. My buddy Juice says this all the time. It's like, two people that play 40K that don't even know each other, the second they run into each other, they're instantly friends because they have this conversation piece. They have something they can talk about that brings them together. So all these like Twitch painters, and there's some of these great ones out there, you can just jump on their Twitch, paint while they're painting. A, you'll probably learn something because some of them are just absolutely fantastic. And B, you can still interact with them and feel like that hobby community, because the hobby community is really strong with 40K and a lot of these tabletop games, which is what you run into at, say, Mythicos. You know, every time I've come down to Mythicos, there's so much going on. It's really testament to Kenny and the whole staff there that you have a 40K tournament going on, but there's also a narrative tournament, and there's other people doing some other games in the store. It's always packed in there when I come down, and it's really, really great. And that kind of support, that community support, is important for you guys as a store too, right? During this hard time, is people still need to like maybe reach out and buy some stuff because you're not getting that foot traffic. You're not getting those like impulse buys at the store because you're just not at the store.
Yeah, that's right. The one thing I really wanted to ask you guys is, I know that like with the pandemic and all that stuff is, you know, once it subsides, hopefully when GW releases all this stuff, or like the news comes out this weekend, what do you think like some of the armies that you'll see out in the first tournament will be like? Do you guys feel like it'll still be that Space Marine type of like meta right now, or do you think some people are going to try some jank that like, you know, really come out of the woodworks right now?
I mean, I think you got a bit of both. I mean, honestly, I don't think that. I think Space Marines were really starting to decline after they got their nerf, and some armies are getting some new tools like Tau, which was already kind of a tough matchup for them, and people were kind of figuring out how to kind of deal with Space Marines before the nerf, and now dealing with Space Marines after the nerf. So, I think that you'll see some people who are like, you know what? I just spent a month painting this, so I'm going to play this because I think this is going to be fun. Then you have other people who are like, all right, so this is my list that basically deals with all of what was before. But that's to say, if we come back in the next month.
That's
If
right.
we come back in the next 2-3 months, we might not be in the same edition anymore. We might be playing to a new edition. So that would be really cool to see. I'm really excited to see some new mechanics, shed some light on some units that people don't take often, because I think that's kind of one of the side effects of 40K in general, is that the rules restrict certain models and units from being played because of just how they interact in the game, or how they previously interacted in the game, and they kind of get penalized for that in new editions like Kairos or warp spiders, things like that. Like, since they got hurt in since they were so good in a previous edition, when they come out in a new edition, they kind of don't have the same kind of power that they had before. So I'm interested to see how that dynamic is going to change in a new edition. So
TJ, I think you're right in that regard. You'll see a little bit of both, because some people will adapt very quickly to the new meta, because a lot of people simply have 1,000 points. Some people have 10 armies. Some people have 4 armies. But when the new edition hit on 8th, people burned out those armies really quickly. People painted them, got them built, and got them to the tournaments very quickly. We saw Razorwing Flocks very quickly. We saw Storm Ravens. We saw Brimstones very, very quickly. Once people realized, oh, these are really good and spammable at the time. It's obviously before the Rule 3 came out, but people adapted very quickly to the new rules. Within a day or so, you'd see lists popping up online or on podcasts or in chats, anywhere. So I think the new list will pop out very quickly. But Kairos Fateweaver, I want him to be terrible for another 2 or 3 years. He was way too good for like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, forget that guy. Though now that he's that giant model, I wouldn't actually be. I would like to see him for like a week and then just nerf him again. Just give them hope for like 1 week.
Back so I can
Was he
him.
really that like good? I started in 7th edition, so like I have no exposure other than the tail end of 7th edition actually. So was he really like that good of a model?
Yes. Yeah, for multiple
Yes.
editions, he was really, really good, including 7th.
What did he do?
In 7th, he had like 15 psychic powers. Yeah, TJ, you're the chaos guy. Explain to us why Kairos used to be broken.
Used to be.
Used to be broken. He's a 3 up right now. That's good.
We lost TJ.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking the whole time and no one was saying anything. Anyway, sorry. So he had a 2-up rerollable, and then you could spend the reroll on it. So he would just fly around the table. And back then in 7th edition, you didn't hit flyers unless you rolled a 6. So he kind of just flew around and did whatever he wanted. And then D weapons were a thing. So we had access to D spells. So he would just cast a whole bunch of spells and just murder everything while flying around with like a 2-up invul. And when you finally rolled a 6 to hit him, he was just like, nah, we're all good. I got this. So he would just never get killed, ever. And then summoning was free, so he would just summon stuff in all the time as well. Like, oh, it was so crazy. 7th edition demons were like the end of that edition. Yeah, they needed to go. Him and Magnus were actually
before that, right? Or Kurt used to use them in something called the Fate Crusher build. In 5th edition, right?
Shit. Yep.
What was that?
Sean, you want to tackle this one? Or you want me to take it?
So basically, he would give the entire demon army rerollable saves in an aura, and it was really annoying.
Was it a 5-up invul? Like, or was it
whatever their save was?
Yeah,
like different saves back then? Oh my god.
Crushers. You had Fate Weaver, Bloodthirster, and I think you had a couple. I had like 12 or 18 Fiends. And this was back in the day when you randomize which half of your army you get. You'd allocate X number of units in this wave, Y number of units in this wave. You roll a D6. On a 1 or 2, you get your bad wave. On a 3-up, you get the good wave. So
60% of the time, it worked every time.
Oh god.
Like the entire army with a scatter die. So what you do is you place Fate Weaver down, and he's your most important guy. He scatters, lands wherever. Now you place your entire army within 6 inches of him. If they land within 6 inches, everyone has rerollable saves. So then you have Blood Crusher with a 3-up, 5-up rerollable. Same thing with the Bloodthirster. The Fiends only had a 5-up, and it was really weird. But
God.
Very strong. So that particular model, Fate Weaver, was good for several editions. He was like the cornerstone of demon lists. So it's been a good solid 3 years where we haven't had to deal with that. Where GW was like, he was good for 20 years, put him on the shelf. Which is funny because they actually finally made a new model for him, and then they're like, we don't care about selling this, just make him bad anyway.
9th edition.
9th edition, he's coming back.
Bring the Warp Spiders back too. I want them back.
Yeah, bring Warp Spiders back. I'll take my Screamers back. I have like 30 Screamers that need to come back on the table, please.
Stupid Flamer Screamer bullshit. Stuff was terrible.
Screamers got so funny that I actually, when they had that formation, right, TJ, towards the end of 7, where they did flame attacks, they were Soul Blaze also.
So gross.
Yep. They would run into stuff every time you pass over a unit. They would run into stuff, and people would take wounds every time your units. So you deep strike in a whole bunch of them, then they just fly over units. And they had 4-up invuls as well. They were like 3 wounds a model or something. So they were super difficult to kill. Oh, it was great.
That sounds really cancerous.
Stupid thing out. Wait for it.
That is all of 7th edition. That's all of 7th edition was just cancer. Like towards the tail end, it was like I get 300 points worth of free transports, or I get 1,000 points worth of summoning, or I have a 2-up rerollable Seer Council star that just doesn't care about anything. Like, or the Iron Star, which was a 3+ feel no pain on units that had a 3+ invul. Oh yeah, man! I'm telling you, you need to go back and just look at some old forums at just 7th edition lists and be like, my God, what? Yeah,
because as bad as Space Marines are, the last like 6 months, at the end of the day, they were 8th edition. Aside from the Leviathan, which has been probably the only unkillable thing in this entire edition, that was the only thing we've had this whole 8th edition that was unkillable. In 7th. Almost every army you played against had the ability to make a Death Star that was functionally unkillable. And so you had games where Death Star and Death Star were like nobody can kill each other, and then it's like up to like the other like 200 points in your army to like win mission or something like that. It was just it was obnoxious for casual play. That's been one of the really like highlights of 8th edition, is that a casual player can step in, still get destroyed by somebody who's really, really good at the game, but they'll actually spend the game killing things, which has been like a really highlight of 8th, is that no matter what, you're still going to kill some of your opponent's army.
Yeah.
And so you'll get that like feeling of like joy when you're like, yeah, I blew up this thing, I did this, I did that. Like it may not even matter to the end game of that game, where like you might be such a new player that you don't know that your opponent's just destroying you on the mission, they're beating you by a ton of points. But like at least during the game and as you're playing, you get that joy, you get to play with your models, you get to interact. Whereas like 7th edition towards the end, it was super non-interactive.
Oh man, I remember when I was at the store. I was watching two guys play some 40k. This guy brought Chaos Knights, which was really cool, with some demons in there, and this other guy was playing Pure Guard. And I was like, oh man, this doesn't look like it's gonna be like too good of a game for the guard player. That guard player put so many flashlight shots at that knight. I did not believe that he just blew it up. He like plinked it to death. It was amazing. I was so happy. Everything can kill everything.
Yeah, that's been the joy. That's been the great part of 8th edition. That you can do that. You can't have anything die to anything. You know, that was a huge change because, man, when things couldn't hurt you, that was so that I brought up the Screamer Star, that the Screamer thing that TJ used to play with, and the flame attacks and Warp Spiders, which were two of the big things at the end of 7th. Come to find out that the Avatar of Cain was immune to anything that had flame. So I went to a couple tournaments where I had him, and he couldn't be hurt by Warp Spiders, and he couldn't be hurt by most of the demon lists because they were running that formation, and it was just hilarious. Because
unkillable.
He was unkillable. He was actually actively unkillable.
Okay, I could wound you on 6's Warp Spiders. He goes off
No, you
initiative.
couldn't.
I thought I could.
He was initiative 10, so you couldn't hurt him.
Yeah, whatever. The rest of the army can kill you then. Whatever. He never even worked. Stupid Avatar.
Oh, it worked. That was the best that it did actually. It did actually work. It was the year, actually the couple weeks before Nick won the Nova Invitational using Eldar.
Mm-hmm.
I went to their store and I beat Zach, Jack, and Nick all with the Avatar.
Well, they
Was that like a oof?
And they were bringing all their lists that they were bringing to the Nova Invitational, and I had a list with the Avatar and Banshees and like a Wraith Lord or something in it, and like a Wraith Knight. They were not happy with themselves afterwards. But it was great times. But yeah, there was weird interactions in 7th, so we've been really happy with 8th. And we really liked the interaction the GW's had. So I hope for that sake that this pandemic and stuff doesn't cause any issues with their supply chain, with then the hobby store supply chain, because we don't want stores to close up, you know.
Right, that's the bottom line, right? The more stores that close, the less players you're gonna have that have exposure to the game, and honestly, just less places for people to play to get exposure for the game, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Need those local game stores to maintain the hobby.
Yeah, that's why personally for me, I always try when I go into a local store to pick something up and buy something, even like if I don't necessarily need something that day, just because it's just part of like, I feel like the social interaction of the hobby is that you try to support where you play and support the places where you want, you know, to keep, you know, it's buy local, support local.
Yeah, of course. Do you guys, since we're talking about 8th and 9th right now, I'm just curious. I know you guys brought it up before, but do you really actually think that all these books are going to be able to be used like obviously right away, but they're definitely going to probably put out like another codex for all these armies, right? You would think so, at least from, you know, a financial perspective on their end.
Historically, yeah. If we go to 9th, the hope would be that everything they've just released, because they did release a bunch of new books, that everything would still be viable in 9th. I hope that it's not like the 8th reset over 7th was the first one we'd seen that hard.
Yeah.
Where everything got deleted. I think it was the first time that happened since like 2nd edition. Like every other edition, everything's rolled over, and maybe there's like a rule or something in the books that doesn't interact with the new edition, and they explain it that, oh, that rule either doesn't work or now it does this. But I don't think we're headed that direction because of how good 8th has been. I think GW is just going to roll this edition, at least for this one. Maybe when we go to 10th, it'll be a new hard reset because things will have spiraled on them or whatever. But you'll definitely, I think, see new codexes in 9th if we have it, where like, you know, everybody will be redone, and maybe it won't be Marines because they just came out, but I think everybody else will definitely get a 9th edition book. Not like immediately, but they'll stagger it out over the next 2 years.
Yeah, I'm assuming indexes are their way of saying that everybody can use all the current books is going to work like indexes. So they have all the current rules, and they'll use all the current stuff that is out in these books now, but they're mostly for points, totals, and things like that. And they're general rules, but maybe not their strats. Who knows? Or the way their battlefield role, but something won't transfer over into the new game. And then that gives them like a launching point for basically putting out new books. And that will allow people to buy new books. Because if you can just use the old books for the whole edition or until they rewrite the book, they're not going to make any money. So I think financially, they'll probably just use these as indexes and that will save them money because they can go straight to the rule books and straight to the codexes.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the same camp as you in regard to that, TJ. Assessment that seems accurate, but we'll find out soon.
Right. I think that with 8th edition being so popular, I know how like when even my old store before I came to Mythicos, I know the change from 7th to 8th. A lot of the older guys or the guys that have been playing previously for a ton of editions just didn't like Primaris Space Marines or just the way how simple it was. There was no dangerous terrain rules. It was just too streamlined. But I always told them, I think that 8th edition, even though it was technically my first edition actually going like balls deep into, was perfect for everybody, veteran players and especially newer players. Everyone got the chance to feel like they were, to Sean's point, doing something in the game, But yeah, that's the way I felt about it, and I think that if the 9th edition swing is coming around, I do hope they really don't like shoot themselves in the foot with like not being able to use these codexes. I know there's been some, I don't know if it's been confirmed yet or if it was kind of just rumored that the books are still going to be used again. Do any of you guys know if it was confirmed by them?
I mean, they haven't even confirmed the new edition yet,
Right.
so everything is speculation.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
We don't have access to any of their information at all. We're not involved in any type of playtesting or anything like that, or really have access to any of those players for discussion because they've made a good job of making sure those guys keep things under locks, and I don't really know that many of them to begin with, and so we don't have any of that speculation. I'm just speculating that this won't be a total changeover, which means that I think the books will just stick around because I don't think they like the idea of printing all these books to then create that negative taste in people's mouth. Because if you're releasing, we have more Psychic Awakenings to come, and if you're continuing to release those and you still announce 9th edition, then other people won't buy those books anymore because they're only going to be good for 2 months. I just don't see them in the way that they've presented their company the last few years as doing that road.
Yeah, and you guys have known Games Workshop longer than I have. And before, like, I guess before 8th edition, they used to be like, I wouldn't say like a crappy company, but like they really just didn't listen to the community until like, I guess the tail end of 7th into 8th, right? That's what I've heard at least.
Communicative, we'll say. They weren't as involved in social media. It wasn't as transparent information. You didn't know, say, for example, when you'd get a new codex. Maybe you got an Orc codex 1 year, and then you'd wait 4 years for it. 5 years for it. You didn't really know. There wasn't a schedule. There wasn't really an idea of when the next big FAQ was. So now that you have some structure, it lets you kind of have a good idea of information, rules to be clarified, and that type of thing. And they're interactive on social media, so you can reach out to them on Facebook. Like when they post certain things, people will comment, and they'll actually answer sometimes, depending on your question or how inflammatory you are, of course. But I think it's a lot better now. They're much more interactive with the community. They show up at events, multiple events throughout the year, obviously. So they're actually much more in touch than they used to be, and they hear more from the players. So I think they've made a lot of progress, and they're doing really well, it seems.
I know this is a little bit kind of off topic, but do you guys think that if they gave Chaos Space Marines 2 wounds, that it would break the game at all in any respect?
Just change their points.
Well, yeah, obviously.
It definitely doesn't break it. I mean, no.
The points accordingly, but I think it'd make more sense to give like the special ones, for example, Noise Marines.
Yes.
And Khorne Berserkers 2 wounds, and just increase their points accordingly because those are obviously more specialized in much cooler models too. So I think it makes more sense to give those. Forget the correct name for those type of Marines.
Primaris?
Cult.
Yeah, the
Oh.
Colt Marine. Sorry, the Colt Marine is an upgrade. That would make total sense for them all to go to 2 wounds and increase their points accordingly to be the Primaris.
I bet if they get new models, they'll get primaristed.
Ooh.
Ooh,
Big bases
They're
too.
gonna, they're gonna be, well, they already on big
please.
bases.
They're already on 32s,
They're
but
already on 32s. But like, I bet you if they release new Thousand Sun models, if they release new ones, or they release new Emperor's Children models, that they're gonna get primarist. That would be my
stop
bet.
it. Just stop it, bro. You just
They did
making me all hot and bothered over here.
hot take right here. They did 8th edition was what? 8th edition was the Primaris good guys, right?
Well, I think
Ninth edition-
Fabius is going to
ninth
close
edition.
out that season.
9th edition is going to be the Primaris Chaos.
Well, that would make sense with everything because like Fabius coming back, he's definitely going to bring something, and you see him all the time walking around picking up Primaris stuff. So
Yep.
Is he going to bring the pain?
so
They made Abaddon
bring
bigger.
the Fulgrim.
They're gonna make.
Bring
they're
the
gonna,
Fulgrim.
they're gonna make them all bigger. That'll be
you
this
have to.
edition. And Eldar will still be using models that are 35 years
100 years old. Yeah. I like my old metal models the way they are. Perfect. Just make striking scorpions usable. Fucking make them.
I have Guardian models in my army that I've been using since 2001.
Holy shit. Sentimental value
Fire
or
prism.
just playability?
That Fire Prism's from 2001.
Well, so
The
I'm
one that-
using that model in my army right now. 19
That you stolen from me.
Ooh.
Can't. Coronavirus.
I can't. Coronavirus.
Cough on you.
Oh my god.
I'm replacing
Speaking of
it.
models. Speaking of models, do you guys have any models that obviously this is a rhetorical question almost, but you guys definitely have models that you guys are waiting to open up or just been sitting around. Is there a specific model that you guys want to get done during the pandemic rather?
Yeah, so I've already started a Harlequin project in white, but definitely a single model that's been sitting here for a little while is that new Jane Czar model. They answered it. They gave us plastic Phoenix Lord. They gave us one right now, and Dresar. But you know, Jane Czar is the one for me right now. I want to get her painted. That new model is sweet.
But you, Kurt, you got anything? I know you get models from all over the place.
Yeah, right now I'm planning a wedding, so we'll say I'm not in the painting world at this point. It's never been one of my fortes, and I don't think it will be in the future, unfortunately. Someone helped me out with some painting in the past, and a few other friends. Right now, nothing to unbox and build. TJ has something, given all that chaos he has and like 12,000 points of NIDS.
So all the NIDs are actually painted, which is pretty insane.
How many
Sad.
points? How many
Sad.
points?
It's probably about, I would say at least 12K worth of points.
Ooh.
I mean, there's tons of models, dude. It's insane. I own all of the Forge World models in duplicates, actually. So right there is like 10,000 points by themselves. But
GW did love you.
yeah, actually, those are actual real models. My parents would get them for me for Christmas and my birthday because they're like 2 days apart. So they would just be like, "Here's one box." I'd be like, "Cool, it's a Forge World model," and that's all I would get for like my birthday when I was younger. So, yeah, right now, Creature Caster, who I'm sponsored by, just came out with a whole bunch of new miniatures, a whole bunch of new heralds for Chaos, and demons are next on the block to get new rules and stratagems. So I have been painting all the Slanesh, Khorne, and Nurgle guys. So it's been real fun.
Yeah, I've got a Flamespire Phoenix that has been looking at me for, I think, at least 2 years, collecting so much dust. I love that model, but I don't even think I could even use it as anything in 40K. The base is too big. Do you guys know that model at all?
Is that the High Elf model?
Yeah, that's right, on the Phoenix.
Nailed it.
Use it at your store, and then just say, on that stuff. No one's going to say anything in the TO.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah,
I
the
gotta.
Sigmar range has a ton of cool models. I always try to look at them and see if you can use any of them in 40k because they have so many very cool models, and their big monsters are just unreal.
God, I would love to use Archaon as
Oh yeah,
something. Oh Jesus. Okay, he's on like a Magnus base, right? I think he should be at
just
least.
just put him on a Magnus base.
He is.
This is
He is on a.
Magnus.
He is on a Magnus base. They've changed their line recently. When Sigmar first came out, they had the bigger, the weird bases, but they've recently changed all of their big models to basically be in line with 40k models, so that they have like 4 of the same lines of bases, and you don't have to worry about crazy having to find base and getting the wrong one or buying the wrong one online. So it's cool.
Look at you, so informed,
So knowledgeable.
so knowledgeable.
I'm looking at those models. They do have some gorgeous stuff.
We've just opened up a whole
Interesting.
avenue of Kurt for Kurt.
I mean, I've looked at them in the store. The shiny knight ones look sweet. What are they, Caradon or something like that? No, Stormcast Eternals.
Yeah.
Oh, Sigmarines.
Exactly. Like they look kind of like custodies, except with different animals.
Yeah, I like their like dragon rider and their like what are they like half griffin, half lion steeds. They got some cool shit. Definitely.
John, and build it. You'll take care of that baby.
Mm.
You'll be fine.
He would definitely try to eat that. He's in the put everything in his mouth phase.
So, Sean, I know you've been to Mythicos a bunch of times. Same with you, Kurt and TJ. Your first time was over in Leprechaun. But can you guys just give me like one of your favorite moments that you guys have had at Mythicos since you guys have played there a bunch of times and just been there?
My favorite moment was one of the events I was TOing. I also had to go to a wedding that was in Jersey that day, so I came day of TO'd like half the day, then changed into my suit for the wedding, and walked out, TO'd for a couple more minutes, and then took off. But I just thought it was funny to be in the store in a suit and ready, looking fresh. Though I
You
mean,
were.
TJ's always in a suit, so I was almost as dressed up as TJ is on a regular basis.
No, I saw TJ when he was here for Leprechaun. You were definitely dressed up more. You were in the full suit and tie and full dress pants and all that.
Yeah, I've only worn a full suit like twice at a 40k event. So
I guess I'll go next in that regard. I think my favorite would be seeing Sean in a suit for the first time in my life, outside of pictures. Next, he's gonna shave.
Not likely.
I mean, like I said, I've only, my last time there was my first time there. So tons of great opponents. I had a great weekend. The place is awesome. Like you said, there were a ton of events being run while I was there. So that was really cool to see more than one event, because a lot of times, like you said, you go to these local places and that's the only thing going on. So you don't really get the rest of the atmosphere of the actual store itself, but it was nice to be somewhere where there were other things going on at the same time. So
yeah, we definitely try to make sure that this goes out to shout out to Zach, our event director, who actually makes sure to try and unless we fully ask for the whole event to be for all the tables for 40k or AOS or something, he usually throws in a couple events on the side, smaller events, so that way people just don't feel like they're ostracized. I remember for one of the 30k events we had we sold out of that whole event and everybody was there and all the tables were taken up and I had to use folding tables for people that just wanted to come in and play. So that's one of the things we definitely really try and do is make sure that everyone has something to do on the weekends and that there's a table free. But sometimes with 40k right now at our store, it's been blown up thanks to everybody, including you guys with your help with that. It's been hard to get tables open for people because people really want to play some 40k and we've almost solidified ourselves as one of the awesome places to play at. So credit to you guys, credit to Zach, credit to all of us in the community for that one. One more thing before we wrap up over here. If there was a single model that you would say in 8th edition that is your favorite, what would it be? And it doesn't need to be competitively good, but lore-wise or just rule-wise, what would your favorite model? Well, I guess unit or model would be.
The Incarn, Goddess of Death, Lord Eternal of the Inari, greatest single model ever.
Oh, strong statement, Sean.
The end.
The end. No one else needs to speak.
Why is the Incarn your go-to model for that question?
I just think I really liked the inclusion of the Inari fluff. It actually came out at the end of 7th. I really liked when those 3 characters came out because I felt it advanced the storyline of 40k for the first time in 20 years. I felt it moved it forward for the Eldar, moved it forward for everybody else, and it was really a new beginning, a new cool thing, and it was basically the first new model Eldar had in a long ass time, and like completely new, not even just like a resculpt. So that was really, really awesome. And then her rules are just so unique, and she's super expensive, and for most of the edition has been super expensive, but I've still found her very competitive, and time to time just really, really good. So I've played her most of the edition and had a lot of really fun times with her, and just like in terms of like playing the game, she can just create some very narrative moments that just feel really cool. And then other times she just fails utterly and just dies, and then but you have to laugh it off because you've had fun.
Go with the classic Eldar Fire Prism. I'm only going with that because it was the first model I ever bought, actually, when I first started playing the game. And I think for how many years, terrible for years when I was playing competitively with different armies, and they're finally decent now. So just because I love the Mech Eldar army, as you can